So last time, guys, we ended up here on the Newton's second law in terms of momentum. We explained and we're able to derive how we come up with this formula for force, for net force in terms of momentum. Then we say that when you want to state Newton's second law in terms of momentum, you say that the net force acting on an object is equal to the rate of change of momentum of the object in the direction of the net force. So the net force acting on an object is equal to the rate of change of momentum of the object in the direction of the net force. Guys, when we say rate of change, remember rate of change simply means that you are dividing by time. In a mathematical sense, whenever you hear the term rate of change, it means that it is divided by time. Have you guys ever known of that?
Yes, sir.
If you didn't know of that, I'm telling you now, whenever we say the rate of change, it means that we are dividing whatever that is by time. So in this case, we say that the net force is equal to the rate of change of momentum. So you can see that on our numerator, we have got the what? The change in momentum. Remember, delta P, it is the change in momentum or change of momentum. Okay, the rate, and then this is divided by the time. And then this is the time in seconds. But which time are we talking about here, guys? This is when you are applying a force on an object. Okay, so when you apply a force on an object, you cause it to change its momentum. For example, if you look at this vehicle that we have here on the road, if someone applies a force to this object, it will accelerate, Anish, according to Newton's second law. You guys know that if I apply a force on an object, that object is supposed to accelerate in the direction of the net force. That's what Newton's second law means. So basically, in terms of momentum, we say that we can calculate that net force. We can calculate the net force if we know the change in momentum and we know the time taken when applying the force. For example, let's just say I apply this force for 60 seconds. That is the time that I will substitute here. So this time that is written here at the bottom of the formula, it is the time taken when you are applying the force. Okay, so let's just say right now you are pushing a wheelbarrow. You push a wheelbarrow for 5 seconds. So you have applied a force for 5 seconds, causing the wheelbarrow to change its momentum. All right, are we still together in basic terms?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the formula, guys, that you use. F net is equals to delta P over delta T. All right, so now just to modify the formula, since we say that F net is equals to, I'm sure we say that the net force is equals to the change in momentum per unit time, or the rate of change of the momentum, right, in the direction of the net force. So you guys remember the equation that we use to find the change in momentum if we know the mass and the velocity of an object. How do you find the change in momentum, Ganje?
So it's mass multiplied by final velocity minus initial velocity.
Yes, so it's mass into final velocity minus initial velocity. This is small letter v, of course, because this is velocity. It's not capital letter, so it's small letter v. So this is mass into final velocity minus initial velocity. So it means that for simplicity's sake, if I know the mass of the object that we are applying a force onto, and we know the final velocity that it will have after you applied that force, and we know the initial velocity that it had before you applied the force, you can be able to find the change in the momentum, the change in the linear momentum of this particular object. So just keep it in mind that you can just replace delta P with M into Vf minus Vi over delta T. Okay, so let's just try to look at these examples of application that I gave you guys. I say what I'm giving you as a homework, more like you're going to research on it, because we had not done examples yet on it, but I gave it to you so that you guys can take your time and look at it. So I would expect you guys to engage as much as possible. Let's start with number one. Number one, I've rewritten it here so that we can have enough space. We have got a 400 grams ball that is initially at rest, and that ball is kicked with a force of 20 newtons, causing it to move with 2 meters per second, to move at 2 meters per second to the east. How long was the force applied on the ball? Now you are given, first of all, let's just make a simple diagram so that we understand what we have at play here. So we have got a ball. Does any one of you guys play soccer here?
Yes.
Oh, the girls play soccer, really?
Yes, sir.
Wow, nice. Awesome. Okay, so this is your soccer ball. Don't know if I'm drawing this correctly, but this is a soccer ball, and we are given its mass, and they say that the mass of this soccer ball is 400 grams. Right, and then now they say initially it is at rest. Cutie, as you are finding it right now, before you apply any force to it, you are finding it at rest. So what does that tell us? What quantity can we find from this statement that says at rest?
The velocity equals to 0.
Yes,
The initial velocity.
yeah, cool. And you raise your hands, of course. Yeah, so the initial velocity of this ball was, okay, let's just say is, I don't know who's good with English here, was or is, but let's just say the ball was stationary, okay, or it is initially at rest, right? So at first it was not moving, so the initial velocity is 0 meters per second. All right, now we kick this ball 20 newtons with a force of 20 newtons, and this force of 20 newtons, they say that we are applying a force. It causes this ball to move with 2 meters per second. So this 2 meters per second, what is this, guys?
Final velocity.
Yes, Mukobe.
I wanted to say velocity.
What velocity? Which velocity?
Final velocity.
Yes, final velocity after applying the force, guys. This is all about before and after. So before applying a force, it was not moving. After applying a force of 20 newtons, or after kicking this ball with the force of 20 newtons, causing it to move 2 meters per second to the east. So I'm going to say that my final velocity is equals to 2 meters per second, right? And then now, velocity is a vector quantity. It has got this east part, guys. What does this east part suggest to me here in this case? Yes, Bonol.
So I think it shows us the direction and if whether it's positive or negative.
Yes, the moment you deal with vectors, guys, you don't just write numbers and just be comfortable in writing 2 meters per second. It is very imperative for you guys to make sure that you write a number, then you keep it in mind. If the number is positive, it represents whatever direction that you choose to be positive. Yes, Orifa?
So for this specific question, can we not ignore the direction, because you can't have a negative time? I don't know if that makes sense.
You cannot have a negative
time. Isn't it they're asking us to find the time? So can't you for this specific question leave the direction?
No, you shouldn't leave the direction. Whenever you find your time to be negative, there's something wrong that you did. There must be something wrong that you did, definitely.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Even if you choose even if you choose right to be negative here, your time is supposed to be positive, no matter what. If you find a negative time, the problem is with how you guys treated vectors. That's why, guys, I always recommend use right as positive. Always use right as positive. Because the moment you're gonna say right is negative and you substitute this force as a positive and as a positive number, it's already wrong. So please don't play around with directions. Try your best to use this conversion that I'm teaching you, because it makes it simple and less complicated. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so never play around with directions. So this is towards the east. All right. So guys, force is a vector quantity. This 20 newtons force is a vector quantity. Where is it directed for this particular scenario? Where is the force applied to? Because it must have some direction, right? Because we only have the size or the magnitude. What is the direction of this 20 newtons force? In other words, where is this ball being kicked towards? Yes, Mukobe? Yes, Mukobe, open the mic.
I think 20 newtons is east.
Okay, why?
Because the ball is being kicked to the direction of eastwards.
Yes, guys, they say to this ball, after kicking it, it is going to move with 2 meters per second to the east. How can the ball move to the east when you have kicked it to the west, guys? Is that even possible?
No.
No, because Newton's law states that the object, when a net force is applied on an object, the object will accelerate in the direction of the net force. So basically, the object can never accelerate in another direction, because when you are going to kick this ball, the fact that they said after a certain amount of time it will move 2 meters per second to the east, so it means that this ball will end up going there to the right, towards the east, of course. All right, so it means that the force that has been applied towards the east, because you cannot kick the ball the other direction and yet it moves towards you. That's impossible, right? So this is your 20 newtons. Yeah, so you have got everything right with the directions now. Please, guys, don't ignore directions on force and velocity. Those are the most important vectors. At least for this formula, those are the only vectors that we have. So guys, let's now find what are we looking for here, because they say how long was the force applied on the ball? How long did this ball take to kick the ball? Yes, Bonolo, what are we looking for?
Change in time.
Yes, we're looking for the change in time. All right, so we're looking for delta t, which is the change in time, the time taken for this boy to kick the ball. All right, so now which formula can we work with here? How can we find, because we already know that we have the net force, the average net force acting on this ball. Yes or not? Yes.
F net is equals change in momentum divided by change in time.
Yes, F net is equals to change in momentum divided by change in time, right? Yes.
And then substitute 20 for F net.
Okay, so on F net you can put 20, but this delta P, guys, do we have the change in momentum? Sam?
So why?
No.
Cross multiply. Therefore, if formula go F net times delta T is equals to delta P.
Still the same thing, yes, of course, but now we understand the Newton's law in terms of momentum. You will do that when you are now doing momentum, but when we're now doing impulse, but however way you can do it is still the same formula. It's just the mathematics that you decided to do. Yes, or if
So what we're gonna do is we're going to
expand the change in momentum and substitute the formula, which is M into V final minus V initial. Then you're going to
Yes.
substitute those numbers, and then you're going to transpose delta T and 20. And then you
Yes.
just divide and get the answer.
Yes, of course, because we do not know the change in momentum, you cannot just substitute something that you don't know here, guys. You have to calculate the change in momentum first. You can either do it on the side or you can just substitute it right here on the formula. Yes, Sam, what's the question?
No, sir. You need to change in total 100 grams into kgs.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
very important, guys. We are given in grams our mass there, so we can never have our mass to be in grams. All right. So I have modified the formula, guys. So they can either mark this formula or this one. It's still the same thing. They will give 1 mark for either one of them, right? So now we can now substitute. This mass is 400 grams. Is this acceptable to substitute 400 grams?
No, sir.
No, because we use kgs. So how do we convert a Mukob? Yes, Mukoba, how do you convert?
Conversion from grams to kg, we divide by 1000.
Yes, you divide by 1000. So here, divide by 1000. So this 400 grams divided by 1000 will be able to give you the mass in kilograms. That will be 0.4 kg, right? 0.4 kilograms. So here,
Yes.
it means that when we now substitute our F net, we already know that is 20 newtons. But guys, remember that a force is a vector quantity. So this 20 newtons, is it to the right or to the left? Or where is it towards? To the east, no matter to the west?
East.
So it must be what in terms of the conversion that we use? Must it be positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive 20. Yes, positive 20 newtons. And then the mass, 0.4. Then the final velocity, we already know is 2 meters per second to the east. That's why we are using a positive 2, because we have chosen east to be positive. And then the initial velocity is 0 because it was at rest, divided by delta t. You guys just need to swap this delta t and the 20. It's allowed. It's just cross multiplication. You are just doing your simple mathematics now. You just swap the delta t and the 20. So delta t will be just a 0.4 times 2 will be 0.8. 0.8 over 20. Then you punch this into the calculator. What will be the time taken for the force being how long was the force applied on the ball?
0.04.
What?
0.04 milliseconds.
0.4.
So 0.04.
0.04 seconds. You measure it in seconds. Yes, Lerato? Okay, cool. So here, this is how you use this formula. You can, yes, Sam, you can do a cross multiplication from the get-go, but it's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. There's not much different. And you can choose another direction as positive, but I'm not recommending you to do that. Always choose right or east as positive. Always, so that you guys don't confuse things. Because the moment you choose east, west as a positive, this velocity is going to be negative. But this force, if you forget to put negative on this force, your time is going to be negative and you're going to cry there when you find negative time. There's no such thing as negative time in physics. All right. So the moment you find negative time, just know that there's something that you did wrong there. All right. Are we together?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Now, a 7.2 kg trolley. We've got a trolley here. It's just one object, a 7.2 kg trolley that is initially moving to the right at 0.4 meters per second. And then we've got Stembi, so giving it an extra push. Okay, guys, what is a force? How do you define a force in grade 11? What's a force? So you guys, all of you guys, forgot what a force is. What's a force?
So is it a push or pull?
Yes, it's a push or pull, guys. Whenever you are pushing something or you are pulling something, it means that you are applying a force to that particular object. All right. So whenever you hear these terms, such as an extra push, it means that Sthembiso is applying a force to the trolley. And they now say that causing it to speed up to 2 meters per second in the same direction. Okay. So at first, the trolley was moving at 0.4 meters per second, right, to the right. But now, because Sthembiso comes and gives it an extra push and pushes it even more, do we know the force here? Do we know how much force did Sthembiso use to push this?
No.
No, we don't know the net force that this trolley experienced from Sthembiso's push. Sthembiso's extra push. But after pushing this trolley, of course the trolley would not remain slow. It must speed up because we've given it some force in its direction of motion. So in this case, this trolley sped up from 0.4 meters per second to 2 meters per second. So it has now more speed. So this 0.4 meters per second, what can we say it is? What is this? The 0.4 meters per second.
The final velocity.
Bonolo. 0.4 meters per second. What is it? Sam.
It's the initial velocity.
Yes, it's the initial velocity here. And then what is our final velocity?
2 meters per second.
2 meters.
Yeah, 2 meters per second, right? In the same direction, Jal, it will continue going to the right, right? So here in this case, Sthembiso just gives it an extra push and then it continues moving. Bonolo, is your hand still up, or that was for the previous answer? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Sam.
All right. So now, what is the change in the momentum of the trolley? Okay, this 7.2 kg, what is it, Kambi? What's the 7.2 kg for?
The mass.
Yes, so that's the mass of the trolley. So we've got the mass of the trolley, and we know how much speed was it moving with before we applied the force, and that was 0.4 meters per second. But now that Sthembiso came and gave it an extra push, it now speeds up to 2 meters per second in the same direction. So now, what is the change in momentum of the trolley? That is what we're asked to calculate. So we are looking for the change in momentum. We use the symbol delta P, remember. We are looking for the change in momentum of the trolley. How do you calculate the change in momentum?
Mass multiplied by final velocity minus initial velocity.
Yes, this is the formula for the change in momentum. This one is just a simple, straightforward question. You substitute the values that we have here. 7.2 into the final velocity. You now know that finally it has sped up to 2 meters per second. So here, the directions still apply. It is moving to the right, of course, right? Or it's going towards the east as shown in the diagram. But let's just say to the right or to the east. Yeah, it's fine. To the right. And if we choose right to be positive, our final velocity, this 2 meters per second, which direction is it going in? Like after you push the trolley and the trolley is now moving with 2 meters per second, in which direction is this going?
Right.
Still to the right, because they say it was in the same direction. So we can now say this is 2 meters per second minus the initial velocity. What is it? Yes, Sam. Sam, your hand is up. Yes, answer.
Nginombuzo, sir. I have a question, sir.
Okay.
So say I said they didn't give you the right, but in compared to the positive direction. Now go into the positive direction, Norma.
Well, or if they didn't say right,
Yes,
they
sir.
will usually say because they want you guys to use these directions, right, east, and what. But if they didn't say anything at all, you are just going to say in the positive direction. But that's rare. That's rare. Definitely rare. Because most of the times they want you guys to use east, right, and that they will never make it an ambiguous case. They will never make it have two options, because you guys can make up your own diagram and say that the positive direction is to the left. Okay, so that's why they usually give you diagrams themselves, because they want you to have one specified direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we substituted our initial velocity 0.4 here, and then what is the change in momentum? Just punch in everything into the calculator.
$11.52.
Yes, it's 11.52, and then we measure it in kilograms.
Kilograms meters per second.
Yes, but this must have direction, guys. Change in momentum is a vector quantity, so it must have direction as well. All right, and this must be in the what? To the right.
To the right.
Because we found a positive answer. Whether the change in momentum here, it's pretty obvious, because there is only one force pushing to the right, and this is accelerating. So really, it's kind of obvious before we even do the calculation. Now, if Stembiso's force was applied for only 0.02 seconds, calculate the average net force applied by Stembiso. So if this force that we don't know, this unknown force, was applied for 0.02 s, what is this? What is this quantity? This physical quantity measured in s? Time, right?
It's
Time.
Yes, so this is the time taken for Stembiso was applying the force. Stembiso's hand was in contact with the trolley for 0.02 seconds, applying the force to the trolley as it was moving. Okay, so now we know that this is the time taken for Stembiso to apply this force to the trolley. So now let's just continue and simplify here. How can we find the average net force? How can we find the average net force applied by Stembiso? Yes, Orifa?
So don't you use the F net is equal to delta P over delta T, because we already found delta P in the first question?
Yes, we already have those, so we can find the net force applied for the object to change momentum. And in this case, we are looking for F net, that's the subject of the formula. We know that our delta P is 11.52 kg meters per second. Then the time taken while applying this net force that we don't know to change the momentum by this much. How much the time? Or if
So can I please answer? So let's say for some reason, right, in A, your calculation went wrong and you got the wrong answer.
okay,
And then in B, will they positive mark, like,
yes, positive marking applies in physics paper 1, but that doesn't mean you guys should get wrong answers on papers. Positive marking will apply, yes.
okay,
So it means that you'll get the full marks for B, but for A you'll get 0 marks. So what is the
Okay.
net force? What is the net force that we find, guys? Yes, Orifa?
576 Newton to the right.
Yes, 576 newtons. You shouldn't forget the direction, guys, because they didn't want the magnitude of the net force. They say calculate the average net force, so you must also mention the direction. Guys, it's clear that the force is positive from our calculation. It's very clear that the force is positive. But besides that, guys, you can see that for you to give an extra push to this trolley, you need to push it to the right. You cannot tell me what this trolley is moving to the right when you are pulling it to the left and you expect it to speed up. You can see that is not possible, right?
Yes.
Yes, so this is 576 newtons to the right, because it's a vector quantity. Make sure that you give the magnitude and direction. Okay, let's do this last one for 5 minutes alone, because we have to take a break and come back and look at impulse and go to conservation of momentum. A tennis ball with an unknown mass m is moving to the right at a constant speed of 2 meters per second. It is hit by a tennis racket, causing it to bounce back at 3 meters per second to the left. The ball is in contact with the tennis racket for 0.03 seconds. Did the linear momentum of the ball increase? Let's just collect our data. We have got a ball, a tennis ball. They say it is moving to the right, right? So it's moving to the right at this constant speed. So we can say that this is our initial velocity. We see that, all of us, right?
Yes.
So this is our initial velocity. Then you hit it back. Obvious, guys, when you hit it back, you know that it must bounce back to the left if it was moving to the right. You cannot tell me what the tennis ball will penetrate through the tennis racket. That's like next to impossible. All right. So obvious, if it was moving to the right with 2 meters per second, and then you hit it with the tennis racket, it will bounce back to the left. And in this case, they say it will bounce back with 3 meters per second. But it was moving with 2 meters per second to the right. So we know that this is our final velocity. And it is to the left because it's bouncing back. But now you are told that these two are in contact with one another for 0.03 seconds. So this is the time taken for these two while these two are in contact, which is the tennis racket and the ball. They're in contact with each other for 0.03 seconds. Now the question is, did the linear momentum of the ball increase, decrease, or remained the same? Okay, just correct the English here. Did the linear momentum of the ball increase, decrease, or remain the same? Orifa?
So I said it increased because
Because
it bounced back at 3 meters, which is higher than 2 meters, and also the mass didn't change. So if the mass is constant and the velocity increases, it is directly proportional to momentum. So the momentum also increased.
Yes, guys, remember that the change in momentum, just as the momentum itself, here they're asking the linear momentum, right? So the linear momentum, remember that is given by the formula P is equals to mv, which is mass times velocity. So automatically, guys, here the mass remains constant as this ball bounces back. So the mass will never change. So the only factor that can affect a momentum lana, it is the velocity, guys. Only velocity is the only thing that can affect the P here, which is the linear momentum. So here you have to just observe, look at the velocity. How did it change? It has changed from 2 meters per second, the size of the velocity, right? It has changed from 2 meters per second to 3 meters per second, although in a different direction, but the size of the velocity has increased. Do we all kind of get the sense? Do you all get the sense, guys? Yes. So here your answer will be increased. So the linear momentum will increase. Okay. And then the reason is that the velocity changed. It increased from 2 meters per second to 3 meters per second. And now you highlight that linear momentum is directly proportional to velocity. This is what's most important for you to mention. Linear momentum is directly proportional to the velocity. So the fact that the velocity here increased means that the linear momentum also increased. Yes, Muko? Yes, Mukobe, you can ask. Yes.
I wanted to say if I said that the linear momentum decreased.
Reason?
Because when the ball bounced back, it changed direction, and the velocity was no longer to the right; it was to the left. So the linear momentum will be negative.
Well, the negative only indicates the direction, but the actual size of the momentum increases because the velocity is increasing. Remember, guys, the direction doesn't really say how much something is. The direction tells you where it is going, all right? because if we are having something like this, if I am having negative 70 kilograms meters per second, right, and I'm having 60 kilograms meters per second, and I say that this is my initial momentum. At first the momentum was like this, but now the momentum was like this. Tell me, did the momentum increase or decrease? Let's just say the momentum was like this before. This is before, and then after it is now 70, negative 70. Did it increase or decrease?
Open YouTube. Click on search.
Search Educate.
Tap on the channel head. Tap Join. Tap Join on the membership of your choice. Fill in the payment details to complete.
I was still explaining this, guys. When you are having 60 kilograms meter per second momentum at first, initially, right? This is 60 kilograms meter per second to the right, because it's a positive momentum, so it means it is to the right. So you know that this is 60 towards the right, or this is 60 to the right. And then now that it bounces off a certain surface, and then it now is the new momentum is now 70 kilograms meter per second. This negative 70 kilogram meter per second, this negative, it symbolizes the direction. That is why in the final answer you won't write the negative, you will write 70 kilograms meter per second. You write 70 kilogram meter per second, and then now you're gonna tell us the direction that this is to the left. So when we are looking at the linear momentum in this context, we are looking at its magnitude, the size of the linear momentum. I agree that these numbers are decreasing. Like if you say that the momentum before it was 60, but now it is now negative 70, you are going to say that the numbers are decreasing, right? But in actual sense, when you look at the magnitudes, this negative, it only tells you of the direction of the momentum. So the fact that there's a negative here, it tells you that this object is moving to the left, okay? So it is the actual size, it is 70 kilograms meter per second. So it has moved, the momentum has moved from 60 to 70. So the magnitude or the size of the momentum increases when velocity increases. It's like, guys, you are running. You run to your school. From your home to your school, you are running at 20 meters per second. And when you come back, you just reach at your school and then you come back, you are jogging. When you come back with more strength. You now run at 100 meters per second from your school to your home. So your velocity has increased there. Okay, although the other velocity is now in the opposite direction, but the speed, the velocity there has increased. The size, the magnitude of the velocity has increased. Okay, so whenever you hear that the velocity is increasing, the size of the velocity, or you can call it the speed, if an object is speeding up, meaning that an object is becoming more faster, it means that it will have a greater linear momentum. Okay, so the negative signifies the direction. Don't look at the number in a mathematical sense and say that from 60 to negative 70 you are decreasing. No, because there's no such thing as a negative number, guys. Negative tells you of the direction. If I say give me negative 70 calculators, can you ever give me that?
No.
No, because the negative, because it's not a counting number. It's not a natural number that you can use to count a quantity. All right, but it in physics it always tells us the direction of a vector quantity. So please make sure that you guys analyze this properly. This question was put on purpose because it is really something that you need to give thought to for long. If you didn't give thought too much, go and research. Let's do number 2. Assuming that a 3 newtons force was applied by the racket. So this tennis racket, it applies 3 newtons force, right? Calculate the value of M. Guys, where is this force directed to? Because force is a vector quantity. This 3 newtons, where is it going? Is it going to the right or to the left?
So it's going to the right.
To the
because
right.
It's hitting the ball to the right.
Guys, the initial ball, the ball was going to the right, the tennis ball. Then there's a tennis racket here. There's a tennis racket. Although this looks like a baseball bat, there's a tennis racket here. Then this ball, it was moving with 2 meters per second to the right. But now it will bounce off from this racket because the racket is applying a force to it. So when it comes back, it is now coming with 3 meters per second to the left. So where the tennis racket applied a force to the ball, okay? That's why the ball changed its state of motion. So this force applied to the ball, in which direction was it directed?
To the left.
Yes, to the left. So the tennis racket applies a force to the ball towards the left. That's why the ball moves towards the left. And sure, we always say that when a net force is applied on an object, the object will accelerate in the direction of the net force. So this tennis racket, it has beat down this ball. Hey, I'm using good translation to English from isiZulu, but this tennis racket, it has hit this tennis ball in such a way that it goes to the left. So it means this 3 newtons force that was applied by the racket, it is towards the left. Is that clear, guys? Direction is very important when it comes to vectors. In fact, there is no vector without direction. There's an east here, there's a north, there's a south, there's a west. So this has been applied to the left. Okay, let's just say we are using left and right. Don't mind these cardinal points. So if this force was applied to the left, these 3 newtons must be negative or positive. Must it be negative or positive, guys? Don't keep quiet. Hey,
Which one?
the force that is applied by the racket to the ball, must it be positive?
Negative.
Must be negative 3 newtons because we have chosen that our left must be negative. Always
Yes.
choose left to be negative. Never choose it to be positive. Please, I beg of you, because you guys are going to mess up if you start changing directions. So please use left as negative, right as positive. So now, if we now do the question, we want to calculate the value of M. How are we going to do that? Provided the information that we had before the break.
So,
Yes,
but can I answer the question?
yes, you can. All right.
So first you're gonna use F net is equals to delta P over delta T, and then sub in the net force and the time to get the change in momentum. And then after that, you're going to do a second formula, the change in momentum formula. So you're gonna sub in your change in momentum and then your velocities, and then you'll have mass as an unknown, and then you just divide, and then you get mass.
Okay, cool. So you can do it in this way. You can do it in 1 step, or you can do it in 2 steps. Depends on what type of person you are. So here we've got 3 newtons, right? So there's 3 newtons. So I'm going to write 3 newtons here for the force, a positive 1. Is it fine if I write a positive 3 here?
No.
It must be
No.
negative because it's going to the left. And then this is equals to delta P over the time taken, the time of the contact time between the tennis racket and the ball. What is it?
0.0.
0.03.
Yeah, 0.03 seconds. So you just cross multiply these two. You are going to find that a delta P there is going to be equal to what? 0.03 times negative 3 will give you what?
0.09 kilograms meters per second to the left.
Yes. Okay. Good. Nice mentioning the
Oh, that's a positive answer to the left.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the negative means to the left. But when we're going to substitute and proceed with the formula, we need this negative to be part of the formula. Okay. Because remember, we're not done calculating. We also want to find the what? We also want to find the mass. Guys, the mass is a scalar quantity. It must always be positive. So if you get a negative answer when you are doing this, just know that there's something wrong that you did. Especially when choosing directions, there must be something wrong that you would have done. Let's see. We know that the change in momentum is equals to the mass.
Sam,
Yes.
I think you made a mistake. It's not 0,009.
Yes, 0,09, not 2 zeros.
Yes, after the decimal.
Oh, okay. I think I heard you guys saying 0.009, but it's fine. 0.09. Okay, cool. So now our delta P can be calculated using M times Vf minus Vi. And now we're looking for this mass, which is M, the variable M. So here I'm just going to substitute and say that this is going to be M. We don't know the mass, right? That's what we're trying to calculate. Then the final velocity here, what is the final velocity going to be?
So minus 2, minus 3.
Minus 3 meters per second, because we have chosen the left to be negative, because here finally the ball, it is moving to the left. So this 3 meters per second to the left, when we write it, we're going to write -3 because we have chosen that whenever a vector quantity, it is going to the left, it must be negative. So by now you guys must know that velocity is a vector quantity. So it's important for you guys to write the direction. And then what is the initial velocity?
Minus 2.
It's
like positive 2.
Cool. Yeah, it's positive 2. This minus is from the formula, guys, remember. And then this is going to give you negative 0.09, which is what we have here. This is going to be -3 minus 2, which will give you minus 5m is equals to negative 0.09. All you have to do here is to just divide by -5 on both sides. So you divide by -5 on both sides. Okay, I can't write here anymore. Okay, you divide both sides by -5 here, guys. Then you are going to find your m. Your m must always be positive. Do you see that, guys? Even if we use left as a negative direction, our answer will still come out as positive for the mass, because the mass is a what? It's a scalar quantity. What is the mass there?
0,18 kilograms.
0.18 kilograms.
Yes.
Do you see that it's a positive answer? Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So let's conclude on the impulse. Let's conclude by looking at impulse. So you guys need to remember that F net is equals to delta P over delta T. This is the Newton's second law, guys. This is how you write it. Don't cross multiply the delta T when you are doing the Newton's second law in terms of momentum, because the Newton's second law in terms of momentum must have F net as the subject of the formula. When you state it, you say that, what you say? You say that the net force is equals to the rate of change of momentum. So you must have net force as the subject of the formula. But now, we want to twist things a bit. If we cross multiply this delta T, we will have something like F net delta T is equals to delta P. Do you see that, guys? We just cross multiplied here. The delta T, we cross multiplied it to the F net on the other side. Do we all see that?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So this F net times delta T, we say it is known as the impulse. So the combination of the net force and the time, it is known as the what? As the impulse. Think about this, guys. Do you know what a pulse is? Do you know what a pulse is? Do you guys know what a pulse is? Yes, when you want to check if someone is still alive, you use a pulse. A pulse kinds of whose phone is vibrating now?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, you can mute the mic. Yeah. So when you're talking about a pulse, guys, you need to imagine a heartbeat. You need to imagine a heartbeat, right? Just imagine a heartbeat.
I'm trying, sir. Ish.
Okay, let's give you time. Okay.
No.
All right. So you need to imagine a heartbeat, guys. If your heart is beating fast, like if you place your hand on your heart and you hear your heart is beating fast, it means that your hand is experiencing more force in a shorter time, okay, from the heart. All right, let's just say you just after running, let's just say you go and you jog. I'm sure you know that your heart will start beating fast. It will be like go, right? So if you take your hand,
Yes.
and then, if you take your hand and you touch your heart, you will experience that your hand is being pushed by your heartbeat, Anish.
Yes.
Yes, that's a pulse. So basically, when I talk about an impulse in this case, impulse is just a combination of the force and the time. The force and the time in terms of multiplying. So we define it in a mathematical way. But you guys later on, you will understand what it really means in real life. So impulse is the product of the net force or the resultant force acting on an object and the time the net force acts on the object. So when we multiply the net force acting on an object and the time taken for that force to act on the object, we get the impulse. Do we get the sense?
Yes.
Yes, but so we can say that the formula for impulse, the first formula for impulse that you guys should know is that impulse, whenever they tell you to calculate impulse, you're gonna say impulse, it is the net force times the what? Times the time taken. So this is the first formula for impulse. First equation. So whenever you have got these two things, if you know the net force applied on an object and you also know how long or the time taken for the net force to be applied on the object, you are going to get the what? The impulse. But you guys can see from this diagram that the F net delta T, it is also equal to delta P. Do you see that, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, from this equation, guys, is very clear. It's very clear that F net times time, it is the same thing as saying delta P, which is the change in momentum. So automatically, we can say that impulse can have another formula. We can just say, in order to calculate impulse, you can just say impulse is the change in momentum. So impulse is actually equal to the change in momentum. This is the second formula. Don't mix them up, guys. Don't mix them up. When they want you to calculate the impulse, don't try to use this one formula as a whole. When they say calculate the impulse, you can either use one of these two formulas. If you know the net force and the time, you multiply them, you get the impulse. If you know the change in momentum, the normal change in momentum that we've been doing in all of these sessions, that is the impulse. It's otherwise known as the impulse. But the unit that we'll use for impulse, we are going to use newtons seconds. This is the standard unit that we're gonna use. I'm sure this is force times time, right? So the standard unit that you're gonna use for impulse is newtons second. It's not newtons per second, it's newtons second. Do we understand each other, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, don't sleep. All right, let's do an example. Now, this example is a simple one. An object falls from the top of the building. So we've got an object that is falling from the top of the building. And when this object falls from the top of the building, what happens? You are told here that it hits the ground. This hits is something, it's a force. It hits the ground with a 49 newtons force. So we have got an object falling from the top of a building. Here is the object. When it reaches the ground from the top of the building that it is falling from, because this is your building, let's just say the object came down from the top. It will hit the ground with a 49 newtons force downwards, of course. It's obvious, guys, it will hit the ground with a force downwards. It cannot be upwards. So the ball will apply a force to the ground, 49 newtons downwards. Now they say it takes...
So meaning it's negative.
When you start calculating the force, okay, let's look. This is the force from the ball, the force exerted to the ground from the ball. Do we get the force that we're talking about? Is the force from the ball to the ground, not from the ground to the ball. Please don't get it wrong. So it's 49 newtons down. And then now they say it takes 0.01 seconds for the ball to bounce back again. So after a certain time in contact with the ground, and that time we are told that is 0.01 seconds. Now it will bounce back. Guys, when the ball bounces back, what force is causing it to bounce back? Why is the ball bouncing up again?
So isn't it because the floor is going to exert a oppositely directed equal in magnitude force back on the ball, causing it to go back up?
Yes, that's the correct answer, guys. We need to now employ Newton's third law. You remember that Newton's third law states that whenever an object A applies a force on object B will simultaneously apply the same force of equal magnitude, but in the opposite direction. So if this ball applies 49 newtons to the ground, because it is hitting the ground, this term hit, it means it's applying the force, okay, to the ground, this 49 newtons force. So it takes 0.01 second, just in a matter of a fraction of a second, this ball will bounce back up, this ball will go up again. So it is because the ground will apply an equal force, but in the opposite direction, an equal force in terms of the magnitude. So the size of the force applied by the ground on the ball, it is still 49 newtons, but it is now up because the ball applied the force downwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the force, now we say, what is this impulse? Okay, so I'm going to delete this force applied by the ball to the ground, because we are interested on the force exerted by the ground on the ball or to the ball, so that the ball can bounce back up. Now we want the impulse. What can we do? Which formula can we use between Formula 1 and Formula 2?
Formula 1.
Formula 1, because we know the force. We know the force applied by the ground on the ball. We also know the time taken is when they were in contact. So we can say that now impulse, because we are looking for impulse, I will say impulse is equals to the net force multiplied by the time taken. And in this case, our net force, we can see that it is 49 newtons. Is it going up or down in this case? Up or down, guys? Is it going up or down, the net force?
The question again.
Is the net force, is the force applied on the ball going up or down? Because we're interested on the force applied on the ball. The force applied on the ball.
So the force is up. The force of the ground on the ball is up because the force of the ball on the ground is down.
Yes, guys. Okay. Yes, Sam. Okay, let's hear Sam's question first. Yeah.
Sebengivumelana no-Ritha. Yeah, I was agreeing with Ritha. Or Ritha, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or Rifa.
Okay, it's fine. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say, guys, what is moving here? It is the ball, right? We are looking for the impulse. We are looking for the impulse of the ball, right? So we need to look at the force applied by the ground, because the ball experiences, and shall we say that the ball hits the ground with a force of 49 newtons. So it must be downwards. We cannot say that.
Yes.
Yeah, we cannot say that the ball is hitting the ground, yet the force is upwards. It's like the ball is like pulling the ground. That's impossible, right? So here in this case,
Yes.
the ball is hitting the ground with this force of 49 newtons down. So the ground will simultaneously apply a force of equal magnitude, a force that will also be 49 newtons, but it will apply it up to the ball. That's Newton's third law. So this 49 newtons that we're talking about, this F net, we are talking about the force that this ball experiences from the ground. Do you get the sense? Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Please
Yes, sir.
revise Newton's third law. That's 49 newtons, that's positive, and then the time taken is 0.01 seconds. Then using this will be 49 times 0.01. That will give you impulse in newtons seconds.
0.49.
Yeah, 0.49. So this is your impulse. So we used Formula 1 because we had the F net and the time. So this is your impulse.
So the impulse doesn't have direction.
Okay, so impulse, since it is a product of force, which is a vector, or it must have direction. I think it must have direction. I'll confirm, just not sure, but it must have direction because a product of a vector and a scalar will still be a vector. Yeah, if we are looking at it in that way, it must have direction, if I'm not mistaken. So this must be up.
Up.
Yes. So the direction, all of it, the direction is all depending on the force in this case. Yes.
So if you say you are calculating for impulse, they will always be specific that calculate the impulse.
Yes, they will ask you the impulse. I don't think they can phrase it in other ways. Impulse is just impulse. I don't see any synonyms that they might probably use.
Okay, sir.
All right. So let's look at these ones, right? But we'll look at question 1 first so that we can look at the graph. If we're having a 200 grams ball that is moving to the left at 2 meters per second, encountering a wall, causing it to bounce back at 1 meter per second. Be able to calculate the impulse of the ball. And if the ball was in contact with the wall for 0.5 seconds, what is the force applied by the wall on the ball? You guys should be really, really careful here. Now we have got a wall, then a ball. So this ball is 200 grams. 200 grams ball, and this ball, it is moving to the left. You see, diagram in this case matters because they say that this is moving to the left. So this is my ball. It is moving to the left at a velocity of 2 meters per second. Yeah, the speed is 2 meters per second. Then the direction is to the left. This is a 200 grams ball. Now it encounters this wall. So this is your wall, right? And this wall will cause this ball to bounce back. So this ball will hit the wall and it will bounce back, right? And when it bounces back, this ball it will bounce back at 1 meter per second. Why is the ball bouncing back, guys? That's the question.
So because of Newton 3.
Yes, Newton's third law. The fact that this ball will push itself and apply a force on the wall will simultaneously apply a force of equal magnitude, but in the opposite direction, causing this ball to deflect and change the direction and go to the right. That's obvious that it will move to the right, guys, because here they say it will bounce back. When they say it will bounce back, you already know that if it was going to the left, when it bounces back, it means that it is changing direction to the right. So you don't need to be told that this 1 meter per second is to the right. Yes, Sam?
In order to master impulse, you have to know is a third law, Nessa.
Yes, to master impulse, third law is very important.
Okay, sir.
So guys, you are not confused due to why we are saying this 1 meter per second is going to the right, Angisho. It's obvious. You cannot bounce back and tell me, Uzi, you were going to the left, but now you are bouncing back to the left again. That's impossible. It's like you are just getting through the wall, all right, which is impossible in the real world. So calculate the impulse of the ball. What do we have here? What is this 200 grams?
It's the mass. It's 0.2 kilograms.
Yeah, so the mass, if we convert it, it is 0.2 kilograms, 0.2 kilograms. So you guys should know now that we do not recommend, we don't use grams. Let me not say recommend. We don't use grams. We use kilograms. We have the mass. We have got this 2 meters per second. This 2 meters per second, what is it?
It is the initial velocity.
Yes, initially this is the velocity. And then this 1 meter per second, what is it?
Final velocity.
Yes, it's the final velocity after the wall applies a force on the ball. Hey, that's a bar. Now calculate the impulse of the ball.
So we're gonna use the momentum. Impulse is equal to change in momentum.
Yes, guys, remember that we've got two formulas for impulse. If impulse can either be F net times delta t, that is if you know the force and the time taken for the force to be applied. All right. But if you don't know that, so just say impulse is the change in momentum. So you can just come here and say that impulse is equals to the change in momentum. All right. So in this case, you know that change in momentum can be calculating by saying m into Vf minus Vi, and then you just substitute your 0.2 kg into the final velocity, which is going to be 1 meter per second, considering we took right as positive. And then our initial velocity is going to be what?
2.
2. That is very positive.
-2.
Negative 2 meters per second, because velocity is a vector quantity. Once we choose right as positive, we realize that the velocity of our ball initially was negative. It was going to the left, right? So it must be negative. So this must give us 0.2 into 1 plus 2. So 3 times 0.2 probably will get you to something like 0.6, if I'm not mistaken. You confirm with your calculator.
Yes.
Yes, so this is your
Yes,
impulse.
it's
You measure it
0.6.
in newtons second. Okay, and then you give it a
So
direction.
can I also,
Yes.
Sam, can I also write my SI units as kilograms minutes per second?
No. Although impulse, it is equal to the change in momentum, but impulse, it is not the change in momentum. The trick is here. When we define impulse, we say it is the product of the net force and the time. So the units must be based on the net force, which is in newtons, and the time, which is in seconds. Why do we even equate it to delta P? It is just because F net delta T is equal to delta P, but impulse is not really the change in momentum, but it is equal to it. So the mathematics allows us to say that impulse is equals to delta P, but in reality, in terms of the physics behind it, impulse is not change in momentum, but they are equal numerically. Okay, let's go to B. If the ball was in contact with the wall for 0.5 seconds, which is our time of contact, what is the force applied by the wall on the ball? So, if the ball had been in contact with the wall for 0.5 seconds, what would be the force applied by the wall on the ball?
Oh, don't you use your Newton thingy? Can't you use your Newton's second law formula or the first formula for impulse?
Okay, the Newton's second law formula says what? What can we use? How can you write it in your way?
You can say F net equal to delta P over delta T, because you already have delta P and you have delta T.
Yes, guys, we already know that the numerical value for the change in momentum it is the same thing as the impulse, which is what we have calculated. This is just delta P itself. Okay, so you can just come here and substitute this as delta P into the formula. That's why it's a simple one, just 3 marks. Is 0.6 Newton seconds, but now you're gonna treat it as the change in momentum, right? And then the time taken is 0.5. Because guys, the numerical value or the number, the numerical value of the impulse is the same as the numerical value of the change in momentum. So once you calculate the impulse, it means that you have calculated the change in momentum. Or once you calculate the change in momentum, it means that you have calculated the impulse. So essentially here, you already have what you need. So what is 0.6 over 0.5?
1,2.
1,2, and the unit?
Newton second.
Newtons. Hey guys, it's newtons here. Because remember, this is Newton second and then this is second. The second and second will cancel, will remain with newtons. But Vele, you know that force is measured in newtons, right?
Oh, sorry, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So do you see the direction of the force? What is the direction of the force?
Sir, it's to the right.
Yes, the answer gives, the maths gives you the correct answer. And if we do the analysis, here we're looking for the force applied by the wall on the ball. So the wall has to apply a force on the ball to the right. Your mathematics agrees with you because it's giving you a positive value for the force, which is what you have chosen to be right. Okay. So if you found your answer to be negative,
Yes.
it would be wrong. If you found your answer to be negative, it would have been wrong because when I have chosen the right side to be positive, so now the wall applies a force to the right to the ball. Yeah, when you come back, we'll finish up. Our 10 minutes break is about to come. Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes. Now let's do something that needs a bit of analysis. Okay, this is a graph question. Graph types of question, they're usually asked lapha multiple choice. Okay, so now we are given this graph question. They say that the following graph shows the force exerted. So you've got a force exerted on a hockey ball over time, right? So now the hockey ball is initially stationary and it has got a mass of 150 grams. All right, I didn't really ask the question, of course. I don't know what happened to me when I was typing this. Okay, so the question is here, what is the impulse? Calculate the impulse. That's the question. Calculate the impulse. How would you guys approach this? Or they say you do not use any formulas. Don't use any equations that you know. Calculate the impulse using the graph.
Don't you calculate the area of the triangle?
Why should we calculate the area? Why should we calculate the area?
So I don't know, but I know that you calculate the area under the graph. I don't know why, but like I'm just used to doing that in physics.
Well, indeed, when you have got graphs, at some point you need to calculate the area, but it's not always like that. Sometimes they must ask of another quantity. All right, so here guys, you need to look at what is the graph giving us. What physical quantities, guys, do you see on the graph? Wow, what can you see from the graph actually? What numbers can you see?
Net force and time.
Yes, we have got these two physical quantities. There's a net force, there's also a time, right? So there's a net force on the y-axis and we are given a numerical value which is 70 here. And on the time we are given a corresponding numerical value which is 0.5, and the time is in seconds, the force is in newtons, right? So you already know that the combination of force and time, if you are multiplying them, of course, that's going to give you the what? The impulse, right? So you know that basically for me to find impulse, just keep, you shouldn't write it, but just keep it at the back of your mind that for me to find impulse is equals to the net force times the what? Times the time, right? Do you all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
So here, using this graph, you need to be able to find the net force times the time. In this case, you can see that the shape of the graph is a triangular shape. All right, so the graph here is triangularly shaped. So you can see that here, the graph starts here, the force increases from 0 to 70 newtons. Okay, so the highest force or the maximum force that we're having here is 70 newtons. That's the biggest amount of force that has been applied to this hockey ball, right? And then again, that force decreases, okay? That force now decreases, forming a triangular shape. Now, what are you trying to achieve by even seeing that there's a triangle here? Why do you need to calculate the area? It is because the area here, it will give you F net delta T. Do you realize that, guys, the area here will give you the net force times the time? Do you all guys see it?
Yes.
Yes. So here in this case, you see that this is a triangle, and you know that in a triangle, to find the area of the graph is equal to what? It is equals to half of the base multiplied by the perpendicular height, right? So it's half base times perpendicular height, not just any height, the perpendicular one. And the perpendicular height can only be drawn from the center or from the central point of the triangle down in a vertical line-ish. You guys can see this is a vertical line, and that height is perpendicular. This is just your maths, right? And you can see that this height, how long is this height? How big is this height?
70.
70, right? 70 years. So now if we go in detail now and say that the area here, the area will be equals to half of the base here. What is the base representing, guys? Like what?
The time.
Yes, the time, because the base is this part, right? This is the base, and the base here is the x-axis. In this case, it is the time axis according to this provided graph. So we can say that the base is your time. And then the height here, what is it representing? The height. The net force, yes, the net force or the force basically here. So this is the height, which gives you the net force. So we can say that just to replace and to say that we know that base is delta T and the height is what? Is F net. So we can just say this is times F net. And you can see that, guys, this is now the F net delta T. You can see this is the F net delta T. That is the impulse. So you are trying to calculate the impulse just using the graph, just by using the graph alone. You all guys see that?
So therefore, sir, if I'm not mistaken, the area goes by 17,5.
That's going to be, okay, let's just do the substitution so that you can see. This is going to be half of, what is the time there? 0.5, right? Which is the base, right? And sure the base is this this green part, right? You can see the base is from 0 to 0.5. So it's 0.5, that's the time, which is the base. And then the F net, what is the F net there? Which is the perpendicular height, is 70. What do you get as the answer?
Step is with it.
17,5.
17.5. And then now you're just going to give it the unit of newtons second because you've used real physical quantities here. All right. So it can come here. This is not direction based. Basically, if you look at this, this is not direction based, but your graph can come as a square as well, or as a quadrilateral shape. So don't expect to always find triangles there, guys. So if you find the time in seconds, and then now the force is here, rather maybe the force is 50 newtons. This is the force and then now they draw something like this, and then now they say this, just pretend this line is a vertical, and then at the time here they will write 2. Yes, Sam, what's the question?
Well, I was timesing E delta T in F net, therefore I was dividing it 2 instead of using the area rule. So, am I correct?
Well, it's practically the same thing in Goyenzile, because you are saying, I'm sure you said F net delta T over 2, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the same thing as saying half times delta T times F net. So practically it's the same thing, but you need to recognize it is the area of this, because you understand whatever this is a shape, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, they can give you your scenario in this way, guys. What is the difference between these two graphs? The first one here and the other one. What's the difference between them?
The shape
The
of
time is long and the shape.
Yeah, the shapes are different now, right? But now, what does that mean in this case when you're looking carefully at your graphs? The difference in the shapes, what does it mean?
It doesn't mean a different formula.
Well, yes, in a mathematical sense, you are right. It means you're going to use a different formula to find the area. Who else can think it in another way?
sir, put it into the F net, it's constant until
Yes.
the
Just hold it there. You have said exactly what's needed. There is a constant net force here. There is a constant force applied. There is a constant force.
Net force.
Yeah, the constant net force applied. Because you can see that, guys, from the time times 0, from 0 seconds as the time until 2 seconds, the net force remains as 50. It's a straight line, yabo. The net force remains as 50 newtons. So there is a constant net force applied. But in the first scenario, you can see that the net force increases. Should when someone is pushing this hockey ball, or when someone is exerting a force on this hockey ball, they exert it in such a way that it increases until it reaches a maximum of 70. But in this other one, this is a constant force that is being applied. And to find the impulse here, which formula are you going to use then? Using the graph, of course.
No, isn't it length times breadth?
Yes, because
yeah.
this is a quadrilateral. You're gonna say the area, it is the length multiplied by the breadth. And in this case, the length represents the what? The F net, right? Okay, it depends on what you call the length here, or what you call the breadth. But the length, I'm referring to this height-like structure. This is my length in this context. But it's multiplication, it doesn't really matter. And then when I'm talking about the breadth, I'm talking about this time axis. Okay?
Yes.
So this F net, and then you are multiplying this by what? By delta T. And you just substitute the F net, which is 50, the delta T, which is 2. And then that's going to give you 100. But because you know that this is impulse, it's going to be Newton second in the positive direction. Do we all kind of get the sense of all of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how it works. And do you guys see? Do you guys see that if the shape is a triangle, there will be a less impulse, but if the shape is a quadrilateral, there will be a more impulse. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, that is the function of this half here. So this half base times height, it is the one that is making the impulse to be smaller. But we are not there. I just wanted you guys to be able to analyze the graphs. So with this in mind, this is the task for you to do. Right. I am going to put yes, what's the question?
So say but we pay the graph that is like a wave.
A wave.
It's still is like
it's
the
not,
triangle.
It's not realistic. It's not a realistic way of interpreting a force, because force it works on straight lines. It can never be a wave. It can never be a wave. That is now another new concept that is known as torque. But force, they will always use straight lines.
Yes, I'll just send an example grouping to show you what I'm talking about, Nessa.
Okay, maybe I'm not hearing you well, yeah? Just send it quickly so that we can close down. Orifa, what's the question?
So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I just realized that you see the square graph that you just drew over here.
Yes.
So can they use that kind of graph to ask you to calculate the change in momentum, because we just calculated the change in momentum?
Yeah, well, basically the change in momentum, it is practically the impulse, right? By the numeric value. So in case they ask, what is the change in momentum? You should be able to find it just from this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Bonolo. Bonolo, your hand is up.
Oh, yes. There are some questions that come and like they have an angle.
Okay. Which one,
I
for
think-
example?
It's Newton's second law in terms of. Should I send it in the group?
You can. Okay, Sam, that's not a wave. That's not a wave. That's not a wave indeed. Those are still straight lines, Sam, from the group. That's not a wave. You can still find the area of those two separate triangles and then you add them up. But if you find a question like this, post it in the group. I want it as your homework because we've already exhausted all the simple questions. I cannot keep on giving you simple questions. So if you have got questions that those tricky questions, of which I don't want to put too much of them because they will ask you of the conservation of momentum, which we are still going to do later on. So that's why I want us to take it step by step. So Sam, if you still have this question, just put it on the group and we'll see it and make it your homework. But besides that, this is what you need to go and research over the 2 days. Conservation of momentum. That is the last topic. This is conservation of momentum. Only then you will start doing these practice question papers. Okay?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. Who wants to close for us?
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.